Welcome to Tales by Felix, where every story unlocks a new world. Remember to subscribe, like and share. Let's begin. Elara Vance stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Thorne penthouse, the city skyline glittering like a jewel box below. The apartment, perched atop Thorne Tower, was a masterpiece of modern luxury. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, and art that cost more than most people's homes. Yet, as she sipped her champagne, the bubbles felt flat on her tongue. She was engaged to Julian Thorne, the charismatic heir to Thorne Tech, a global tech empire. To the world, she was living a fairy tale. To Elara, it felt like a cage. "Darling, you're brooding again," Julian's voice cut through her thoughts, smooth as velvet but with an edge she couldn't ignore. He stepped behind her, his reflection joining hers in the glass. Tall, with dark hair and piercing blue eyes, he was every inch the Prince Charming, except for the way his smiles never quite reached his eyes lately. "Am I?" Elara tilted her head, forcing a smile. "Just admiring the view." Julian's hand rested on her shoulder, his touch warm but possessive. "You should be enjoying yourself. This is our night." The hour referred to the engagement party happening behind them, hundreds of guests, all elite, mingling under the glow of 1,000 candles. Elara's emerald gown hugged her frame, drawing admiring glances, but she felt like a prop in Julian's carefully curated world. Across the room, Seraphina Thorne, Julian's older sister, held court. Her raven hair was swept into an elegant updo, and her crimson dress screamed power. Seraphina's eyes met Elara's, and for a moment, the air crackled with something unspoken, disdain, perhaps, or something darker. "Elara, come meet someone," Seraphina called, her voice honeyed but sharp. Elara crossed the room, aware of every eye on her. Seraphina introduced her to a dour-looking man in a tailored suit. "This is Mr. Sterling, one of our key investors." Sterling's handshake was cold, his gaze assessing. "So, you're the future Mrs. Thorne. Quite the catch." Elara forced a laugh. "I'm just lucky to be here." "Lucky," Seraphina echoed, her smile thin. "Or destined." The conversation shifted to business, and Elara excused herself, feeling like an outsider in their cryptic exchange. As she moved toward the balcony for air, she overheard Seraphina murmur to Julian, "Sterling's getting too curious. We need to handle this." "Patience, Sarah," Julian replied, his voice low. "We'll deal with him." Elara's heart stuttered. "Deal with him." She told herself it was just business jargon, but the words lingered like a storm cloud. The next morning, Elara sat at the breakfast table, the penthouse eerily quiet after the previous night's revelry. Julian was already gone, leaving a note about an early meeting. She scrolled through her phone, trying to shake the unease from the gala, when a notification pinged, an encrypted message from an unknown sender. Check Julian's private server. Folder S-17. Trust no one. Her pulse quickened. Julian's private server was off-limits, even to her. Curiosity battled caution, but curiosity won. In his study, she bypassed the basic security. Julian had once shared his password, a rare moment of trust. The folder S-17 contained emails between Julian and Seraphina, cryptic and coded. One stood out, Sterling's digging into the offshore accounts. "If he talks, we're exposed. Plan B is ready." Elara's mouth went dry. Offshore accounts? Plan B. She closed the laptop, her hands trembling. Was Julian involved in something illegal? And Seraphina, her cold smiles suddenly made sense. At dinner that evening, Elara tested the waters. "Julian, how's Mr. Sterling? He seemed intense last night." Julian's fork paused mid-air. "Sterling? He's a nuisance. Always poking into things that don't concern him." His tone was casual, but his eyes were sharp. Seraphina, seated across the table, chimed in. "He's replaceable. Investors like him come and go." Her gaze locked onto Elara's, as if daring her to push further. Elara forced a laugh. "Sounds like he's causing trouble." "Nothing we can't handle," Julian said, his hand brushing hers. But the warmth felt calculated, and Elara's stomach churned. Later, alone in their bedroom, she replayed the conversation. The encrypted message, the emails, the gala whispers, it all pointed to something sinister. She wanted to confront Julian, but fear stopped her. Instead, she sent a reply to the anonymous sender. "Who are you? What's plan B?" No response came. The Thorne family's annual gala was a spectacle, hosted at their sprawling estate outside the city. Elara arrived on Julian's arm, her silver gown shimmering under the chandeliers. The guest list was a who's who of power players, but the air buzzed with tension. Mr. Sterling was there, his presence like a dark cloud. Elara noticed him arguing quietly with Serafina in a corner, his face flushed, her expression icy. "Everything okay?" Elara asked Julian as they danced, the orchestra's music swirling around them. He twirled her, his grip tight. "Just business, darling. Nothing for you to worry about." But Elara was worried. She excused herself to the restroom, taking a detour past the study where she'd overheard Serafina and Sterling. The door was ajar, and their voices spilled out. "You can't keep this buried, Serafina," Sterling hissed. "I have proof of the embezzlement. If you don't come clean, I'll go to the authorities." Serafina's laugh was cold. "You're playing a dangerous game, Sterling. Think about your family. Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Elara's heart pounded as she slipped away, her heels silent on the carpet. She rejoined the party, her mind racing. Embezzlement? Threats? She needed to talk to Julian, but he was deep in conversation with a group of investors, his charm on full display. As the night wore on, Sterling grew visibly agitated, downing drinks and muttering to himself. Elara caught his eye, and he approached her, his breath heavy with whiskey. "You're in over your head, Miss Vance. Get out while you can." Before she could respond, he staggered toward the garden. Elara followed, intending to press him for answers, but a crowd blocked her path. Minutes later, a scream pierced the air. The scream came from the garden. Elara pushed through the crowd, her heart in her throat. Mr. Sterling lay sprawled on the stone path, a knife protruding from his chest, his eyes wide and lifeless. Blood pooled beneath him, stark against the moonlit gravel. "Oh my God!" Elara whispered, her knees buckling. Guests gasped, some turning away, others snapping photos. Julian appeared at her side, his face pale but composed. "Elara, stay back," he said, pulling her away. But his touch felt different, distant, almost clinical. Police arrived swiftly, cordoning off the area. Elara's mind spun. She'd been near Sterling moments before his death. Had someone seen her follow him? She glanced at Serafina, who stood with a handkerchief to her lips, her eyes gleaming with something Elara couldn't name. An officer approached Elara. "Ms. Vance, you were seen near the victim. We need to ask you some questions." I didn't do anything," she stammered. "I just saw him in the garden." The officer's expression was unreadable. "We'll need you to come to the station." At the station, the interrogation room was cold, the fluorescent lights harsh. "Ms. Vance," Detective Harrow said, sliding a photo across the table. It was the knife, her fingerprints clearly identified on the handle. "Care to explain?" Elara's blood ran cold. "That's impossible. I never touched a knife." "Security footage shows you following Sterling into the garden," Harrow continued. "And we found a transfer of $500,000 into your account this morning, from an offshore account linked to Sterling." Elara's world tilted. "I didn't do this. Someone's setting me up." Harrow leaned back, unimpressed. "That's what they all say." The evidence piled up like a house of cards designed to collapse on Elara. The doctored security footage showed her lingering near Sterling, her face clear as day. The bank transfer was traced to her account, time-stamped hours before the murder. Even her own engagement ring, found near the crime scene, was presented as evidence of her motive, a supposed affair with Sterling gone wrong. In the holding cell, Elara's mind raced. Julian's betrayal was the sharpest cut. He'd visited her once, his face a mask of sorrow. "Elara, how could you?" he'd said, his voice breaking. "I trusted you." "You know I didn't do this," she'd pleaded, gripping the bars. "Julian, please, you have to believe me." He'd shaken his head, tears in his eyes. "The evidence, it's overwhelming." "I'm sorry, Elara." Serafina's visit was worse. She stood outside the cell, her expression one of pitying superiority. "You poor thing," she said. "You thought you could fit into our world. But you were always disposable. You did this," Elara spat, her voice trembling with rage. "You and Julian. I know about the offshore accounts, the threats." Serafina's smile didn't waver. "Careful, Elara. Accusations like that could make things worse for you." The trial was a blur. The prosecution painted Elara as a gold digger who'd killed Sterling to cover her tracks. Julian testified, his voice steady as he described her erratic behavior. Serafina played the grieving sister, her crocodile tears convincing the jury. Elara's defense attorney, overworked and underfunded, couldn't counter the airtight case. The verdict came swiftly: guilty. Life in prison. As the gavel fell, Elara's eyes locked onto Julian's. For a fleeting moment, she saw something: guilt, perhaps, or triumph. It didn't matter. The golden cage had become a real one, and she was trapped. The clang of the cell door echoed in Elara's ears as she was led into Blackthorn Penitentiary, a fortress of grey concrete and despair. Her wrists chafed from the cuffs, her emerald eyes dulled by betrayal. Julian's words, "I trusted you," replayed like a cruel mantra. The courtroom had been a stage, and she'd been the sacrificial pawn. Serafina's crocodile tears and Julian's calculated sorrow had sealed her fate, life without parole for a murder she didn't commit. In the prison yard, Elara kept her head down, avoiding the predatory gazes of inmates. Whispers followed her: the Thorne fiancé, the gold digger killer. She clutched the thin mattress in her cell, her only sanctuary, and fought back tears. She wouldn't break. Not yet. A guard tossed a newspaper through the bars. The headline screamed, "Thorne heir devastated by fiancé's betrayal." Julian's face, handsome and anguished, stared back at her. Below it, Serafina's quote, "We loved Elara like family. This betrayal cuts deep." Elara tore the paper to shreds, her hands shaking with rage. That night, a low voice broke the silence. "You're not the only one they've screwed over, kid." In the next cell, a woman with gray-streaked hair and sharp eyes leaned against the bars. "Name's Clara. Used to be a journalist. Got too close to the truth about some powerful folks. Sound familiar?" Elara hesitated, then whispered, "They framed me. Julian and Serafina. I don't know why." Clara's laugh was dry. "Power. Money. Control. Pick one. Or all three. The Thorns play dirty, always have." Elara's voice cracked. "I thought he loved me." "Love's a weapon in their world," Clara said. "But you're not done yet. You've got fire in you. Use it." Their late-night talks became Elara's lifeline. Clara taught her to read people, to listen for what wasn't said. "The truth's out there," Clara said, tapping her temple. "You just need to know where to look." Months bled into a year. Blackthorn's routine, stale food, endless counts, and the constant threat of violence, ground Elara down, but Clara's lessons kept her sharp. She learned to navigate the prison's hierarchy, trading small favors for information. A guard's loose lips revealed that Thorntech had just landed a massive government contract, suspiciously timed after Sterling's death. Elara's appeals were denied, each rejection a fresh wound. Her lawyer, a public defender with a caseload the size of a small city, barely returned her calls. "The evidence is ironclad," he'd said, defeated. "Your fingerprints, the money, the footage, it's too much." One night, Clara slid a contraband burner phone under the bars. "Don't ask how I got it," she said. "Check the dark web. There's a forum, Justice Unveiled. People there dig into cases like yours." Elara's hands trembled as she logged in, her heart racing at the risk. The forum buzzed with true crime enthusiasts and hackers dissecting wrongful convictions. A thread caught her eye: Thorntech's dirty secrets. Anonymous users posted about shady deals, missing whistleblowers, and a figure called the Silent Justice, who leaked evidence to topple corrupt elites. "Clara, who's this Silent Justice?" Elara whispered. Clara shrugged. "A ghost. Or a myth. Nobody knows. But they're real enough to scare people like the Thorns." Elara scrolled further, finding a post about Sterling's death. The Thorne siblings orchestrated it. The fiancé was a scapegoat. Her breath caught. Someone knew. She typed a message. I'm Elara Vance. I was framed. Help me. A reply came hours later. Prove it. Find the truth in Thorne Tower's servers. Folder. Shadow Vault. Elara's pulse quickened. The truth was out there, but she was locked in here. Clara became Elara's anchor, her stories of exposing corruption fueling Elara's resolve. I was working on a piece about Thorne Tower's offshore accounts, Clara confided one night. Got too close, and suddenly I'm arrested for bribery. Sound familiar? Elara nodded, her jaw tight. They're untouchable. Not if you're smarter, Clara said. The silent justice, whoever they are, they're proof you can hit back from the shadows. Elara's days were spent observing, listening, planning. She befriended a hacker inmate, Riley, who taught her the basics of coding and encryption. You want to fight the Thorns? You need to think like them, Riley said, her voice low during a library shift. They're all about control. Find their weak spots. Elara's nights were spent on the burner phone, digging into Justice Unveiled. She found more posts about Thorne Tower, doctored financials, silenced employees, and a pattern of accidents for those who got too close. One name kept surfacing, Ethan Thorne, Julian's estranged cousin, who'd left the company years ago after a public falling out. Ethan might be a way in, Clara said, peering over Elara's shoulder. He's got no love for Julian or Serafina. Elara hesitated, then messaged the forum, looking for Ethan Thorne. I have information. She didn't expect a response, but the seed was planted. In the yard, a fight broke out, and Elara saw her chance. She slipped the phone into a hidden seam in her uniform, her heart pounding. If she was caught, it was solitary, or worse. But the risk felt worth it. The silent justice was a beacon, and Elara was starting to believe she could become something like it. 2 years in, Elara was a shadow of her former self, leaner, harder, her eyes sharp with purpose. The forum had become her obsession, a lifeline to the outside world. A new message arrived. Ethan Thorne is listening. Send proof. Attached was an encrypted file with a single email from Julian to Serafina. Sterling's gone. Elara's the perfect fall guy. Move the funds now. Elara's blood ran cold. Proof. Undeniable proof. But she was trapped, and the file was useless behind bars. She showed it to Clara, who whistled low. That's dynamite, kid. But you need to get it out there. How? Elara asked, frustration boiling over. I'm stuck here. Clara's eyes gleamed. You're not thinking big enough. The silent justice doesn't work from a cell. You need to be free. Elara laughed bitterly. What, escape? This is Blackthorn, not a movie. Clara leaned closer. I've got contacts. People who owe me. It's risky, but if you want justice, you need to be a ghost. Elara's heart raced. Escape was insane, but so was rotting for a crime she didn't commit. She spent weeks planning with Clara, memorizing guard schedules, and mapping blind spots. Riley helped, teaching her to disable a camera feed with a makeshift signal jammer. One night, Clara pulled her close. When you're out, you become the silent justice. For both of us. Elara nodded, her throat tight. I won't let you down. The forum buzzed with new activity. The silent justice strikes again. Corrupt CEO exposed. Elara read the post, her resolve hardening. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. Elara's digging on Justice Unveiled uncovered a goldmine. Thorne Tower's Shadow Vault folder, accessible only through a backdoor Riley taught her to exploit, contained a trove of damning evidence. Financial records showing millions funneled through shell companies, emails detailing Sterling's murder, and a list of other whistleblowers who'd disappeared. Julian and Serafina were meticulous, but not invisible. Elara shared snippets with Clara, who mapped the connections. They've been at this for years, Clara said, sketching a web of names on a smuggled napkin. Sterling was just the latest. You were convenient, a nobody they could pin it on. Elara's anger flared. I was his fiancé. And that's why it worked, Clara said. Who'd suspect Julian of framing his own bride-to-be? Elara contacted Ethan via the forum, sending encrypted fragments of the Shadow Vault files. His response was cautious. I know who you are, Elara. I believe you. Meet me when you're out. We'll bring them down together. The promise of an ally gave Elara hope, but the prison walls loomed larger. She overheard a guard mention Julian and Serafina's latest move, petitioning to declare her legally dead. "They're tying up loose ends," Clara said grimly. "You're running out of time." Elara's resolve crystallized. She memorized the escape plan: a maintenance tunnel, a stolen uniform, and a narrow window during a night shift. The risk was astronomical, but so was the reward. She whispered to Clara, "When I'm out, I'll finish what you started." Clara gripped her hand. "You're not just Elara anymore. You're the silent justice now." The news hit Elara like a punch to the gut. In the prison's common room, a grainy TV blared a headline: Elara Vance declared legally dead in Thorne family petition. Julian and Serafina, dressed in somber black, stood before cameras, painting themselves as grieving victims. "We need closure," Julian said, his voice thick with feigned sorrow. Serafina dabbed her eyes, adding, "It's time to move forward." Elara's hands clenched into fists, her nails biting into her palms. They weren't just erasing her from their lives, they were erasing her existence. The legal declaration meant her assets, her identity, everything she'd been, was now theirs to control. In her cell, Clara's eyes gleamed with grim understanding. "They think they've won," she said. "But they've just handed you a weapon." "What do you mean?" Elara asked, her voice low to avoid the guards. "You're a ghost now," Clara replied. "No one's looking for a dead woman. That's freedom, if you use it right." Elara's mind raced. Freedom. The word felt foreign, but it sparked something fierce within her. The escape plan she and Clara had meticulously crafted, using a maintenance tunnel, a stolen keycard, and a distraction from Riley, was her only shot. But now, it wasn't just about escape. It was about becoming the silent justice, the phantom who'd haunt Julian and Serafina. That night, Elara whispered to Clara through the bars. "If I get out, what's the first move?" Clara's voice was steady. "Find Ethan Thorne. He's your bridge to their world. Use the Shadow Vault files to gain his trust. Then hit them where it hurts, their empire." Elara nodded, memorizing the plan. The forum message from Ethan, "Meet me when you're out," burned in her mind. She clutched the contraband burner phone, her lifeline to justice unveiled, and sent one last message: "I'm coming. Be ready." The weight of her decision settled over her. Escape meant risking everything, her life, her future. But staying meant letting Julian and Serafina win. She wouldn't give them that satisfaction. The prison was a fortress, but every fortress had cracks. Elara spent days refining the escape plan, her heart pounding each time a guard's gaze lingered too long. Riley, the hacker inmate, had rigged a signal jammer to disable a camera for exactly 90 seconds. Clara had bribed a maintenance worker for a tunnel map. The pieces were in place, but the timing had to be perfect. In the yard, Elara overheard a guard mention a routine inspection the next night, a distraction that could cover her exit. She shared the intel with Clara, who nodded. "That's your window. Don't hesitate." That evening, Elara sat in her cell, staring at the torn remnants of the newspaper declaring her death. The irony fueled her. They thought they'd buried her, but she was about to rise. She whispered to herself, "You're not Elara Vance anymore. You're something else." Clara overheard and grinned. "That's the spirit. You're the silent justice now. They won't see you coming." Elara's resolve hardened. She memorized every step. Slip into the maintenance tunnel at 2 a.m., use the stolen keycard to bypass the outer gate, and disappear into the night. Riley had arranged for a burner car to be left a mile from the prison, courtesy of a Justice Unveiled contact. Ethan's last message had included a safe house address in the city's underbelly. "You're sure about this?" Elara asked Clara, her voice barely audible. Clara's eyes were fierce. "You're not just doing this for you. You're doing it for every soul they've crushed. Go." Elara hugged the older woman through the bars, a rare moment of vulnerability. "I'll come back for you," she promised. Clara shook her head. "Don't. Finish the fight. That's enough." The spark of retribution burned brighter. Elara wasn't just escaping, she was declaring war. The night was moonless, the air thick with tension. At 1:55 a.m., Riley triggered the jammer, and the camera in the maintenance corridor blinked out. Elara, dressed in a stolen guard uniform, slipped from her cell during the inspection chaos. Her heart thundered as she navigated the dim tunnel, the map in her mind guiding her past rusted pipes and flickering lights. Every creak made her freeze, expecting a shout or a siren. The keycard worked, the gate clicking open with a sound that felt deafening in the silence. She sprinted into the woods, her breath ragged, until she reached the burner car, a beat-up sedan hidden in a ditch. She drove, her hands shaking on the wheel, until Blackthorn's lights faded in the rear-view mirror. By dawn, she was in the city, pulling into the safe house, a run-down apartment in a forgotten neighborhood. The Justice unveiled contact, a wiry man named Dex, handed her a new ID, Lena Croft, data analyst. "You're a ghost now," he said, echoing Clara. "Stay that way." Elara, now Lena, stared at her reflection in a cracked mirror. Her hair, once long and auburn, was cropped short and dyed black. Her eyes, though, still burned with purpose. She logged into Justice Unveiled and messaged Ethan, "I'm out. Ready to meet." His reply was immediate. "Warehouse District, tomorrow, midnight. Bring the Shadow Vault files." Lena spent the day memorizing the files, her anger reigniting with every email detailing Julian and Seraphina's crimes. Sterling's murder was just the tip. Thorne was a house of cards built on fraud, intimidation, and blood. She whispered to herself, "They'll pay." Dex overheard. "Careful, Lena. Ghosts don't get second chances." She met his gaze. "I don't need one." Lena Croft stepped into her new life with the precision of a predator. Using forged credentials, she landed a job at Next Gen Solutions, a rival tech firm sniffing around Thorne's contracts. The role, data analyst, was unassuming, perfect for blending in while accessing networks that could expose the Thorne secrets. Her first day, she sat in a sterile cubicle, her fingers flying over the keyboard, already probing for weak points in Thorne's firewalls. Her boss, a no-nonsense woman named Marla, noticed her skill. "You're good, Croft. Too good for grunt work. Where'd you train?" Lena kept her voice steady. "Self-taught. Always had a knack for patterns." Marla raised an eyebrow but let it go. Lena's real work happened after hours, using next-gen servers to dig deeper into Thorne's Shadow Vault. She found more, encrypted ledgers showing billions siphoned through shell companies, and a hit list of problems like Sterling. Her name was there, marked resolved. At midnight, she met Ethan in a derelict warehouse. He was lean, with Julian's blue eyes but none of his polish, disheveled, wary, a man on the edge. "You're Elara," he said, studying her. "Or Lena, now. You've got guts." "You've got proof," she countered, handing him a USB with Shadow Vault excerpts. "Sterling's murder, the embezzlement, it's all here." Ethan's jaw tightened as he scrolled through the files. "I knew they were dirty, but they killed my mentor too. Years ago. I've been waiting for a chance to hit back." "Then help me," Lena said. "We can end them." Ethan hesitated. "They'll kill us both if they find out." "They think I'm dead," Lena said, her voice cold. "That's my edge." They agreed to work together, Ethan feeding her insider intel while she gathered digital evidence. Lena felt reborn, not as Elara, the naive fiancé, but as a weapon forged in betrayal. Lena's days blurred into a double life. By day, a quiet analyst at NextGen. By night, the silent justice, sifting through Thorne's digital underbelly. She hacked into their secure servers, her skills honed by Riley's lessons and Clara's insistence on precision. The Shadow Vault revealed more horrors, doctored patents, bribed regulators, and a network of hired muscle to silence dissenters. She sent encrypted updates to Ethan, who was posing as a loyal Thorne cousin to gather physical evidence. One night, he called her burner phone, his voice tense. "They're planning something big, a merger with a defense contractor. If it goes through, they'll be untouchable." Lena's fingers paused over her keyboard. "Then we stop it. I found a backdoor in their financial system. I can leak their ledgers to the feds." "Do it," Ethan said. "But cover your tracks. Seraphina's paranoid. She's got people watching everyone." Lena's heart raced as she planted a virus in Thorne's servers, designed to release the ledgers anonymously to a Justice Unveiled journalist contact. She worked from a dingy internet cafe, her hoodie pulled low, aware that one slip could expose her. The virus was subtle, untraceable, but it would take days to activate. Back at NextGen, Marla called her into her office. "You've been accessing restricted servers, Croft. Care to explain?" Lena's stomach dropped, but she kept her face neutral. "Just stress testing our security, like you like us to do." Marla's eyes narrowed. "Don't play games. I know talent when I see it, but I also know trouble." Lena left the office, her pulse pounding. Marla was too sharp. She'd need to be careful. That night, she messaged Ethan, "Virus is live. Be ready for fallout." His reply was a single word, "Good." Lena stared at her screen, the silent justice taking shape. The Thorns had built an empire on lies, but she was about to light the fuse to bring it down. Lena Croft's cubicle at NextGen Solutions was her cover, but her real battlefield was the digital realm. By day, she crunched numbers. By night, she weaponized Thorne Tech's secrets as the silent justice. The virus she'd planted in their servers was ticking, set to leak their illicit ledgers to a justice-unveiled journalist in 48 hours. But a new message on the forum stopped her cold. "Ethan Thorne's digging again. He's a liability. Handle it. S. Serafina." Lena's blood ran cold. Ethan, her ally, was in danger. She dialed his burner phone, her voice low in the dim safe house. "Ethan, they're on to you. Get out of Thorne Tech now." His voice crackled with urgency. "Too late. I found something, physical evidence, a ledger backup in their vault. I'm grabbing it tonight." "That's suicide," Lena hissed. "Serafina's watching." "I'm not backing down," Ethan said, his tone defiant. "Meet me at the old dockyards, 3 a.m. Bring your skills." Lena hesitated. Ethan was reckless, but he was her only insider. She agreed, pulling on a black hoodie and slipping a USB drive with her latest Shadow Vault hacks into her pocket. The dockyards were a maze of rusted containers, the air thick with salt and decay. Ethan emerged from the shadows, clutching a leather-bound ledger. His face was pale, his eyes darting. "They're moving fast," he said, handing her the book. "This lists every dirty deal. Sterling, the whistleblowers, you. They're planning to erase all traces." Lena flipped through the pages, her heart racing. Names, dates, payments. It was a roadmap to Thorne Tech's crimes. "This is enough to bury them," she said. "But we need to move now." A rustle in the darkness made them freeze. Ethan grabbed her arm. "Run." They sprinted through the maze, footsteps pounding behind them. A hired thug, one of Serafina's, loomed into view, his gun glinting. Lena tackled Ethan behind a container just as a shot rang out, sparking against metal. "Stay down," she whispered, her mind racing. She activated a signal jammer from her pocket, a trick from Riley, disrupting the thug's comms. They slipped away, hearts pounding, the ledger clutched tight. Back at the safe house, Ethan's hands shook. "I didn't sign up to die, Lena." "You signed up for justice," she said, her voice steel. "We're in this together now." Lena's fingers flew over her laptop, encrypting the ledger's contents and cross-referencing them with the Shadow Vault files. The evidence was overwhelming. Thorne Tech's empire was built on blood money, with Julian and Serafina orchestrating every move. Sterling's murder was just one piece of a sprawling puzzle. Lena, as the silent justice, prepared to strike. She contacted Justice Unveiled's top journalist, known only as Raven, sending an encrypted package with the ledger scans and Shadow Vault excerpts. Her message was brief. Thorne Tech's crimes exposed. Sterling murder. Offshore accounts. Act fast. Raven's reply came within hours. This is explosive. Need a meeting to verify. Coffee shop, downtown, noon. Lena hesitated. A public meeting was risky, but Raven's reputation was solid. She arrived at the coffee shop in glasses and a scarf, blending into the crowd. Raven was a wiry woman with sharp eyes, sipping an espresso. "You're the silent justice?" she asked, her voice low. Lena nodded, sliding a burner USB across the table. "Everything you need is here. Publish it. Now." Raven scanned the files, her eyes widening. This could bring down half the corporate elite. "You're sure about this?" "They framed me for murder," Lena said, her voice cold. I'm sure. Back at Next Gen, Marla cornered her. You're working late a lot, Croft. Something I should know. Lena's pulse spiked, but she smiled. Just catching up. You know me, perfectionist. Marla's gaze lingered, but she let it go. Lena knew she was on thin ice. That night, she sent Ethan a warning, stay low. Raven's breaking the story tomorrow. Ethan's response was grim, they're spooked. Seraphina's doubling security. Be ready for blowback. Lena stared at her screen, the silent justice's weight heavy on her shoulders. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for Clara, Sterling, and every name in that ledger. The story broke at dawn, a tsunami of headlines. Thorne Tech exposed, murder, fraud, and corporate conspiracy. Raven's article, backed by the Ledger and Shadow Vault files, went viral, shared across every major outlet and justice unveiled. Social media exploded, with hashtag Thorne Takedown trending worldwide. Protesters gathered outside Thorne Tower, chanting for justice. Lena watched from the safe house, her burner phone buzzing with updates. Ethan texted, they're panicking. Board's calling an emergency meeting. Feds are circling. She allowed herself a small smile. The virus had worked, leaking the financials to regulators, while Raven's article lit the public fuse. But Julian and Seraphina were snakes. They wouldn't go down without a fight. At Next Gen, the office buzzed with gossip. Marla approached Lena's desk, her expression unreadable. You see the news about Thorne Tech? Nasty business. Lena kept her face neutral. Shocking, isn't it? Marla leaned closer. I don't know what you're into, Croft, but you're good. Too good. Watch your back. Lena's stomach churned. Marla was too close to the truth. She needed to finish this before her cover blew. That night, she hacked into Thorne Tech's security feeds, watching Julian and Seraphina in their penthouse. Julian paced, his face taut. We can spin this, he snapped. Bury the evidence, pin it on Ethan. Seraphina's voice was ice. Ethan's a problem. So is that silent justice. Find them. Lena's blood ran cold. They were hunting her. She sent Raven a final file, audio of Julian and Seraphina planning Sterling's murder, pulled from a Shadow Vault backup. This seals it, she typed. End them. The feds moved fast. By midnight, news broke. Thorne siblings arrested in corporate scandal. Lena watched the live feed, her heart pounding as Julian and Seraphina were let out in cuffs, their faces masks of fury and disbelief. The trial was a media circus, broadcast live from the courthouse. Lena, disguised as Lena Croft, sat in the back, her heart a storm of rage and resolve. Julian and Seraphina sat at the defense table, their tailored suits and smug expressions a stark contrast to the damning evidence. Raven's articles, the Ledger, and the Shadow Vault files painted an airtight case. Murder, embezzlement, and a trail of ruined lives. The prosecutor played the audio, Julian's voice chilling the room. Elara's the perfect fall guy. No one will question it. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. Lena's hands clenched, her nails digging into her palms. She wanted to scream, to reveal herself, but she stayed silent. That was her power now. Ethan testified, his voice steady as he detailed Thorne Tech's corruption and his cousin's betrayal. Seraphina's lawyer tried to paint him as a disgruntled traitor, but the evidence was overwhelming. The jury deliberated for mere hours before returning, guilty on all counts. As the verdict was read, Lena's eyes locked with Julian's. For a fleeting moment, recognition flickered in his gaze. Fear, maybe, or realization. She held his stare, her expression unyielding. You thought you buried me, she thought. But I'm your reckoning. Seraphina's mask cracked, her eyes darting to Julian as they were cuffed. You said this wouldn't happen, she hissed. Julian said nothing, his jaw tight. Outside, Lena met Ethan in a quiet alley. It's over, he said, exhaling. You did it. Not yet, Lena replied. There are others like them. I'm not done. Ethan studied her. You're really the silent justice now, aren't you? She nodded, her voice low. Elara Vance is dead. Lena Croft fights on. Julian and Seraphina were sentenced to life without parole, their empire dismantled. Thornteca's stock plummeted, its assets seized, its contracts voided. The headlines celebrated the silent justice, a faceless hero who'd toppled a corporate Goliath. Lena watched from the shadows, her safe house now a command center for her next moves. She contacted Justice Unveiled, leaking evidence on other corrupt elites, each file carefully curated to avoid tracing. The forum buzzed with her legend, users speculating about her identity. Lena let them wonder. Anonymity was her shield. Ethan joined her, his tech expertise complementing her hacking skills. They targeted a pharmaceutical tycoon next, one whose price gouging had cost lives. "This one's personal," Ethan said, his voice tight. "They killed my sister with their greed." Lena nodded, her resolve unshaken. "We'll get them. One by one." She visited Blackthorn Penitentiary under a false identity, slipping a note to Clara through a trusted guard. "We did it. You're next." Clara's release was her new mission, exposing the corruption that had jailed her mentor. At night, Lena stood on a rooftop, the city sprawling below. The skyline, once a symbol of her gilded cage, now felt like a battlefield she'd claimed. She whispered to herself, "For Sterling. For Clara. For me." Raven's latest article praised the silent justice, ending with a question. "Who is she?" Lena smiled, closing her laptop. She was no one and everyone, a ghost who'd risen from the ashes of Elara Vance. Julian and Serafina had tried to erase her, but she'd rewritten her story. The silent justice would keep fighting, her identity a secret, her justice quiet but unrelenting. The end.